Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon I bid to everyone. First of all, Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, for His blessing that we are able to be live again in Perlis Mengaji 2020. So, how are you all doing at home today? I hope everyone is doing all right during this difficult time of movement control order. So today, before we begin our lesson on English PT3 writing tips, I would like to first thank Majlis Agama Islam dan Adat Istiadat Negeri Perlis, Jabatan Agama Islam Negeri Perlis, Kerajaan Negeri Perlis, and also the Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Perlis for giving me this opportunity to give this talk on writing tips. Alright, so before we move on to our lesson today, I would like to introduce myself. I am teacher Nurdamia Aimi binti Syafi'i from SMK Tuanku Lailatul Syahrin. You can just call me Miss Damia. Alright, so as you can see on the PowerPoint or on the slide, we are going to focus on writing tips. Basically, we are going to focus on PT3 writing paper. Okay, let's look at the lesson objective first. So today we will, number one, look at the types of essay in PT3 writing paper and the requirement for each question. Second one, we will be going to discuss very briefly the possible topics for PT3 writing. And lastly, the main objective of this lesson is actually to learn how to write a good essay for each part of the writing paper. Okay, now before we move on to the tips on how to write a good essay, I think it is good if we have a bit of recap on what does the PT3 English writing paper consist of. Okay, so basically there are two parts of the writing paper. Part 1, so under part 1, the focus is actually at the level the focus is actually at the A2 level in CFR. We will look at what does it mean by A2 level later on. And then under this part of the task, you are required to write a short text of about 80 words. And then you have part 2. So under part 2, we focus on the level B1 in CFR. Again, we will look at what does it mean by B1 level later on. So for this part, you are required to write a longer essay or a longer text of about 120 words. Both parts, again, okay, both parts carries 20 marks. So you have 4 elements or 4 marking criteria. The first one is actually content, which carries 5 marks. So what is content? Basically, content is the task requirement, the requirement of the task, whether you fulfill what is asked from you. For example, if the question asks you to give an advice, so what you have to write is an advice. You should give an advice. If you write as in you are asking for an advice, that means you are not fulfilling what the task is required from you. And then you have communicative achievement, which carries 5 marks as well. So under communicative achievement, what we are looking at is the appropriateness of your writing. We are looking at the tone and the appropriateness of the language that you use in your writing. For example, when you are writing a message, alright, so when you are writing a message, the message can be formal yet friendly. And then a message can also be very casual, very informal yet rude. So we are looking at how you convey your writing. And then the third element is organization, also carries 5 marks, which means we are looking at how you link your ideas, how you put your writing together, how your writing flows. And then the last one, we are looking at the language-wise of your writing, which also carries 5 marks. So basically, what we are looking in the language part of your writing is the grammar and the vocabulary. Whether you have a good command of the grammar, whether the vocabulary you use is basic or maybe advanced. So basically, both parts carries 20 marks, which means you have a total of 40 marks for your writing paper. Alright, now, as I said just now, the part 1 of your writing paper is at A2 level writing. So you might be thinking, what does it mean by an A2 level? Okay, A2 level in CEFR, CFR means Common European Framework of Reference. So at A2 level, at this level of language proficiency, pupils or you can write about everyday aspects of your life or your environment. Second one, pupils can write very short descriptions of events, past activities and personal experiences. And the third one, pupils can write simple text on familiar subjects of interest. And you link the sentences using connectors. We will look at what does it mean by connectors later on. So basically, at A2 level, pupils are expected to write things that are very related to yourself, your personal experiences, your personal events, what do you like, what you don't like. So from this A2 level of writing, you may ask, how does this A2 level writing relate to your PT3 examination? Alright, so as we look at just now, in A2 level, you are writing about your personal experiences. So from that descriptions just now, we can say that, the possible topics for part 1, maybe, I'm not saying this is compulsory, I'm not saying this will come out in your exam. These are only possible topics for part 1. So perhaps the question will ask you about people, which means your family and friends, those who are very close to you. Maybe the question will ask you about places, a job or study experience, personal experiences and events such as going for a holiday, celebrations such as wedding and birthday celebration, and activities that you do such as daily routines, outings, sports, hobbies, things that you like, things that you don't like. So these are all possible topics. And then from the descriptions just now, you can see that at this level, you are expected to write very short descriptions of events, past activities and personal experiences, and write simple text. So, in your PT3 examination for part 1, the type of task asked is a short text. That means you have to write a note, a message, or a simple email. So that's basically about part 1 of your writing paper. Now, we are going to look at the sample question for part 1. Let's read the question first. Read the email from your cousin. So the email is, "Hi, the school holidays are just around the corner. I really want to do some part-time work in the mall near my house. However, mother and father want me to stay at home and help with the chores. What should I do? I need your advice. Emily." So Emily has sent an email to her cousin asking for an advice. In about 80 words, write an email to Emily giving some advice. So this is the question. Let's look at the requirement. How to answer that question, or how to answer part 1 of your writing paper. So the first one is you have to understand the task. That means you have to know the requirement of the task. So the task just now asks you to choose one thing. That means you have to choose whether Emily should work in the mall or second, Emily should stay at home. Choose either one. And then you have to give reasons or advice. Why should Emily go to work in the mall, or why should Emily stay at home? And then in part 1, you don't have to write long. So you just go straight to the point. You don't have to beat around the bush. Don't write something that is not relevant to the task. And then third one, you have to be as natural as possible. As you can see, part 1 of your writing is actually very informal kind of writing. So for this part, you have to use a friendly and casual tone as you use in your daily life. Think of it like this. If let's say you are in the classroom, there's a teacher in front, and suddenly you feel like you want to go to the toilet. So you have to ask the permission from your from your teacher. So the language that you use to ask the permission is something like, teacher, please may I go out to the toilet, or teacher, may I go to the toilet please? So it's very formal. However, if you are talking to a friend, while walking to the canteen, for example, suddenly you feel like going to the toilet. So to a friend, you won't be asking, for example, Ayuni, may I go to the toilet please? You don't speak like that to a friend. So to a friend, you might say something like, Ayuni, I need to go to the toilet. Give me a minute. So very casual tone. So bear in mind, for part 1, you have to use a very friendly and casual tone that you use in your everyday life. The fourth one, for part 1, keep it within the word limit. It is not wrong to go beyond 80 words. However, if you write longer, there is a tendency for you to actually make more mistakes, more grammar errors. You don't want to do that. Okay, so it is advisable for you to just, write below 80 words. 60 to 80 words are good enough, all right? So don't write long. And then, last one, a very short and sweet ending. Okay, so now I will show you the sample answer for that question just now. Let's read the sample answer. To emily@abc.mail.com from amy@abc.mail.com. Dear Emily, sorry for the late reply. I was caught up with schoolwork, so you may not want to write this. This is just a sample. Well, it's a good thing to do a part-time job, a part-time work, but it's equally important to help out our parents at home too. You see, it's very straightforward. Second paragraph, so my advice is for you to stay at home and help your parents with the chores. I'm sure there are a lot of things to do around the house, especially when you have young kids in your house. Your baby brother and 5-year-old sister may create mess around the house while playing with their toys. On the other hand, your parents must be exhausted when they come home from work. So it's only right if you help them out with the chores. It doesn't do any harm anyway. That's all I have to say. Hope this helps. Bye. Love, Amy. So this sample answer by this candidate is not too long, yet it is not too short. It is just nice. Okay, let's see what the examiner has to say about this. So as you can see, the first paragraph itself is very straightforward and natural, straight to the point. Sorry for the reply, I was caught up with schoolwork. Well, it's a good thing to do a part-time work, but it's equally important to help out our parents at home too. So you don't beat around the bush, you just answer what is required of you. And then in the second paragraph, this candidate has given the advice, which is for Emily to stay at home. And then the sentence, I'm sure there are a lot of things to do around the house, especially when you have young kids in your house, is actually the reason. So the candidate has given the first reason for her choice. Okay, the next one, the second reason given is, on the other hand, your parents must be exhausted when they come home from work. So this candidate has given two reasons to support her choice, which is for Emily to stay at home. And then we look at the ending. A very short and sweet ending. That's all I have to say. Hope this helps. Bye. You know, you don't have to write that long for an ending. Okay, so for this type of answer, let's look at the examiner's remark. The first one, the task requirement is already fulfilled. So we are talking about the content part. When the task requirement is already fulfilled, that means you can get high marks for that. Okay, how is that the task requirement fulfilled? The choices given, as I said just now, the reasons are given, the advice are given. And then the second one is the message. The message is communicated in straightforward manner. The candidate answers the question straight away. The tone is appropriate. That means this candidate uses friendly and casual tone. And the text is organized with connectors, such as but, so all these are connectors. And a few cohesive devices as well. Alright, so this is a good example of part 1. Okay, so for part 1, you have to remember, bear in mind, number 1, you have to write a response based on what is required from you. You have to give a choice, you have to give advice or reasons. Second one, go straight to the point, don't beat around the bush. The third one, be as natural as possible. As I said just now, the tone that you use to a teacher is different from a tone that you use with a friend. And, before I forgot, for part 1, please, you cannot use slangs such as gonna, wanna, and gotcha. So these slangs are prohibited in your exam. You know, you can write them in your Twitter or your WhatsApp status or Instagram, but you can never use it in your exam or in your essay. So please, bear that in mind. And the fourth one, keep it short. You know, a long response doesn't necessarily mean it is good. And a short response doesn't mean it is bad. Bear in mind, the longer you write, you know, there is a tendency for you to make more grammatical mistakes, which is a shame. Alright, and the last one, a very short and sweet ending to your message. Okay, I hope you are all doing well for now, because we are going into the second part of your writing paper, which is longer in words. Okay, I have mentioned earlier that part 2 of your writing paper is at B1 level. So what does it mean by B1 level? So basically, B1 level means a higher language proficiency level than A2. A2 are the beginners, B1 is at intermediate level. Okay, so what does B1 level writing in CFR mean? So at B1 level, Pupils can write straightforward, detailed descriptions on familiar topics within their interests. Second one, pupils can write accounts of experiences, describing feelings and reactions in simple text. The third one, pupils can write short, simple stories and essays, linking the ideas and the sentences using connectors and cohesive devices. And the last one, pupils can write brief reports on factual information. So as you can see, what you can write in B1 level is actually more complex than what you can write in A2 level. In A2 level, it is very short. It doesn't have to be factual. But in B1 level, you are beginning to write about factual information, a bit more formal kind of writing such as a report, a very simple report. And your essays is, your essays are longer in words. So again, how does that B1 level of writing relate to your PT3 examination? So we are looking at part 2 of your writing paper. Again, based on the descriptions that we have looked at just now, we can come out with the possible topics for part 2. Again, these topics are possible topics. They may or may not come out. Alright, so for part 2, again, we are looking at people, such as family and friends, places, a job or study experience, personal experiences and events, such as holidays and celebrations, activities, your daily routines, outings, sports and hobbies, and then a bit more complex content in your writing for part 2. You have factual information on familiar routine and non-routine matters, such as you are talking about smoking, pollution, things like that. So the type of task for part 2, as I said earlier, is a longer text. That means you need to write a story, a recount, or a simple report in about 120 words, just slightly longer. Okay, let's look at the sample question. In your class, you have been talking about wedding ceremonies. In about 120 words, write an essay about a wedding ceremony you have attended. So you will be given a mind map like this, with the topic in the center, a wedding ceremony, and the WH questions scattered around the central topic. You might be asked, when was the wedding ceremony held? Whose wedding is it? Where was it held? Who else attended? What did you do, and how did you feel about it? So you will not be given specific words or vocabulary. You will be given general questions like this. So you need to write an essay revolving around these questions. You need to expand these questions and elaborate on each point. Okay, so how do you answer part 2? The first one, always determine the task. That means, what is the topic about? What do you have to write about? You have to know the topic. The second one, you have to expand the given WH questions, the what, the when, where, who, how. So expand your ideas around these questions, as I mentioned earlier. The third one, plan the essay. So when you plan your essay, you have to determine which point comes first and which points comes next. Alright? And then, while you are writing your essay, you need to include connectors. We will look at the examples of connectors later. And also, at this B1 level, you have to use cohesive devices as well, so that you can actually get more marks. And last but not least, please keep your essay within the word limit of 120. Again, it is not wrong to go beyond, but remember, there is a tendency for you to make more mistakes. Okay, so connectors. Connectors are basically conjunctions that you can use in your writing. So what are conjunctions? Conjunctions are joining words that you use to join words or sentences to make it longer. Alright, for example, you have the conjunctions. Remember fanboys, F-A-N-B-O-Y-S. You have fanboys. F for, A for and, N for no, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and last one S for so. So you can use these connectors to join sentences. So what does it mean by for? For is basically because. It means the same as because. Example of the sentence, I have to find a new job for I am unemployed. So in this sentence, you can replace the word for with because. So the sentence becomes, I have to find a job because I am unemployed. Okay, the second connector is and. This is what you always use, or maybe you normally use. The example of sentence is, please calm down, let's wait and see. Nor. How do you use nor in your sentence? Okay, let's look at the example of sentence first. Neither my parents nor my friends supported me. So from this sentence, you know that both the parents and the friends do not support the person. So you use neither nor to say that both parties do not, do not support or do not do something. And then but. But basically means however. So in a sentence, I have got a home, but I haven't got a car. So in this sentence, if you replace the word but with however, it becomes, I have got a home, full stop. However, I haven't got a car. Basically, it means the same thing. And for the connector or, does Clark have any brothers or sisters? So this question actually asks whether Clark have either brothers or sisters. That means one of the two choices given there. And then you have yet, which basically means but. So in a sentence, he says nice words, yet you don't trust him. So if you replace the word yet with but, you will have, he says nice words, but you don't trust him. And the last one, so. So means therefore. So in a sentence, my daughter is very smart, so everybody likes her. You replace the word so with therefore, you will have, my daughter is very smart, therefore everybody likes her. Basically, it means the same thing. Okay, those are connectors that you can use to join sentences or ideas for both part 1 and part 2. And then, as I said just now, to get more marks on the organization marking criteria, you need to use cohesive devices. So what are cohesive devices? Cohesive devices are words or phrases that hold and hang different parts of a text. For example, you have 2 paragraphs of a story. So basically, you use cohesive devices to link these parts together. But when using cohesive devices, there are a few do's and don'ts that you have to bear in mind. So first one is, when you write an essay or a report, use cohesive devices only if you can use it correctly. If you are not sure whether you use it correctly or not, don't use it. And then only use cohesive devices if it is needed. Not every sentence needs a cohesive devices. If there is no need for you to use one, don't use, because it will disrupt the flow of your story, of your essay, of your writing. Okay, second one is, do not use too many cohesive devices in an essay. So let's say you are writing one paragraph. Ideally, use only 2 or 3 cohesive devices in one paragraph. That is more than enough. You should just use a few cohesive devices, but use it in a very effective, accurate, and natural way. And the third tip is, don't always put cohesive devices at the start of the sentence. This means you have to vary where you put the cohesive devices. It can be at the front, at the middle, or at the end of the sentence. So, it doesn't have to always be in the front of a sentence. So try to vary where you put it. Okay, so these are the examples of cohesive devices. For example, if you want to add ideas, you are telling the reader that you are adding extra information, you can use and, also, as well as, moreover, to, furthermore, in addition, additionally, plus, along with. So these words and phrases tell the reader that you are adding extra information in your writing. And then when you are sequencing events, you can use sequencing words such as first or firstly, second, secondly, third, thirdly, finally, next, before, after, then, after that. So all these words are telling the sequence of events. And then when you want to stress on certain ideas, you can use cohesive devices such as above all, in particular, especially, significantly, indeed, notably, chiefly, mainly, clearly, and generally. So all these words are emphasizing on, help you to emphasize on certain ideas. And then, for contrasting, these words, when you use these words, the reader knows that you are telling 2 different ideas in your sentence or in your paragraph. So use words such as however, whereas, instead of, nevertheless, alternatively, otherwise, unlike, on the other hand, conversely, yet. So this word again tells you that you are telling the reader 2 different ideas. Okay, and then if you use cohesive devices such as similarly, likewise, as with, just as, like, equally, not only but also, in the same way, you are telling the reader that you are writing about 2 ideas which are similar. And then, if you want to show the cause and effect of something, you can use cohesive devices. For example, because, so, therefore, thus, consequently, hence, as a result, due to this. So this word tells the cause and effect of something. And then, if you want to make exceptions, when you are writing, you want to tell the readers that you are making exceptions, you use words such as but, however, although, unless, if not, except, apart from, aside from, as long as. And while writing, you may want to give examples. So you want to tell the readers that you are giving examples. Use words, illustrating words, such as, for example, as I always use during this lesson, you can use such as, for instance, in the case of, as revealed by, illustrated by. So all these words shows you are giving or you are illustrating something. Okay, let's look at how does these cohesive devices and connectors used in a sample essay. So I have here a sample essay for the question on wedding ceremony just now. Okay, let's look at the first step that you have to do for the question that I showed you just now. The first one is for you to determine the task. What is the topic about? What do you need to write about? So the question says, in about 120 words, write an essay about a wedding ceremony you have attended. So basically, the task is for you to write an essay of about 120 words. And then, what content do you need to write in your essay? You have to write about a wedding ceremony you have attended. That means you are writing about your personal past experience or past event. Alright, the second step for that question is expand the given WH questions, the what, the who, when, where, how. Okay, so let's read this example. Last weekend, I attended the wedding of my neighbor's daughter Norlia. Long before the wedding ceremony at noon, my neighbor's house was already crowded with relatives, neighbors, friends and colleagues of the bridal couple. Norlia's father had set a large tent in his garden and he had hired a band to perform. While waiting for the wedding to begin, the band entertained the guests with popular Malay songs. So, as you can see in this sample, the candidates answers when was the wedding held, what is the wedding, who attended the wedding, and so on. So, last weekend, so we know that from this word, the candidate has already talked about when the wedding was conducted. And then you have the sentence, long before the wedding ceremony at noon, my neighbor's house. So my neighbor's house signifies that the candidate has already answered the where question. Okay, the next one. From the same sentence, you have, my neighbor's house was already crowded with relatives, neighbors, friends, and colleagues of the bridal couple. So this candidate has already answered who else attended the wedding. Okay, and then you have the two last sentences. Norlia's father had set a large tent in his garden and he had hired a band to perform. While waiting for the wedding to begin, the band entertained the guests with popular Malay songs. So again, in this sample, the candidate is elaborating on the wedding. So the candidate gives his or her own idea on what was happening during the wedding. Okay, so the next step for you to do in part 2 is to plan the whole essay. You want your essay to flow, to have a good flow so that the reader knows what you are talking about. So, you need to bear in mind, you have to arrange the WH questions just now in order. Which one you want to talk first, which one you want to, write next. Okay, let's see the sample answer. In first paragraph, last weekend I attended the wedding of my neighbor's daughter Norlia, and so on. So from this paragraph alone, if you look at the highlighted phrases, the blue highlighted phrase, last weekend, you can see that this candidate has already planned his or her essay in such a way that he or she answered the question when first. And then he or she moved on to where. Where was the wedding held? So where, you can see that he or she wrote my neighbor's house. And then after telling where was the wedding held, the candidate moved on to answering who attended the wedding, as highlighted in the pink. Relative, neighbors, friends, and colleagues of the bridal couple. Okay, and then the candidate writes what happened first in the ceremony, in the wedding ceremony. You don't have to answer all the WH questions in one paragraph. You have to separate the content, you have to separate the WH questions into a few paragraphs. When we are talking about paragraph in an essay, there is no fixed numbers of paragraph. I cannot tell you you must write, you must write in 3 paragraphs, in 4 paragraphs. What I can say is you have to write in 120 words. So in that 120 words, you have to divide your essay or your content in a few paragraphs. So like this example here, the candidate divides the paragraphs into 4. And as you can see, the WH questions were not in the same, were not all in the same paragraph. They are separated. Okay, so the second paragraph is basically the elaboration of the wedding ceremony. The candidates expand his or her own idea on what was happening during the wedding ceremony. And again, in third paragraph, the candidate writes about, the events happening in the wedding ceremony. It's just an elaboration of the wedding ceremony based on the candidate's own idea. And then in paragraph 3, if you look at the one that I highlighted in blue, I enjoyed myself thoroughly. So from this sentence, you can see that this candidate answered the question, what did you do? And from this sentence as well, you can actually see the feeling of the candidate. I enjoyed myself. It can be an emotion. It is an emotion. You enjoyed the ceremony. And then in the last paragraph, I hope that I would be of a helping hand in an important occasion such as this in the future. So in this paragraph, basically, the candidate write about how did he or she feel during the wedding. So as you can see, as a whole, this essay is, well connected to each other. There is coherence. They are well linked from one idea to another, from one paragraph to another. Okay, next, as I said just now, a good essay, if you want to get high marks for organization, you have the organization element in the marking criteria, remember? So for that, if you want to get a high mark for organization, you have to include connectors and cohesive devices to link your sentences and ideas. So let's look at the examples of connectors and cohesive devices that this candidate used in her or his essay. So in paragraph 1, you have connectors such as the word and while. In paragraph 2, the candidate used connectors such as and also as. In paragraph 3, the candidate uses connectors, for example, after that, and there is one cohesive device which is also. And in the last paragraph, there is a cohesive device such as. So as you can see, mostly these candidates uses basic connectors, for example, and also but. Okay, so these are basic connectors, and then this candidate also uses a very little cohesive devices, 1 or 2 cohesive devices when necessary. As you can see, not all sentence has cohesive device. Okay, so for this kind of answer, let's see the examiner's remark. So basically the task is already fulfilled because all content is relevant to the task. All content is relevant to the topic wedding ceremony. And then the candidate communicates straightforward ideas. When you read this kind of essay, you know what the writer is talking about, or you know what is the writer writing about. So basically you have from the first paragraph until the last paragraph what happened during the wedding, and also there are emotions involved. And then the text is well organized using connectors and a few cohesive devices. So this is a good enough example of an essay for PT3 level. Alright, so I hope you remember, okay, when answering question for part 2, number 1, you have to determine the task. Determine what is the topic about and what do you have to write about. The second one, expand the WH questions. Answer the question and expand it, elaborate on it. And third, you have to plan your essay. Arrange it so that you don't go from A to B and then you go back to A. You have to arrange in such a way that you go from A to B to C. There must be a flow in your essay. Okay, the fourth one, include connectors and cohesive devices to link ideas and sentences. And the last one, please keep it within the word limit. If you want to go beyond 120 words, you have to check your spelling, your grammar. You know, as I said a few times already, when you write longer, you have the tendency to make more mistakes. So please keep it within the word limit of 120. I think that's it for today. I hope this session has been beneficial for you. If you cannot get all tips, perhaps you get 1 or 2. That is great enough. And I hope you will not forget to revise at home, because we don't know when we will meet again at school. Alright, so last but not least, stay home and stay safe. Thank you.